Hello everyone, thought I'd do another paint-along video because I'm sat at my desk painting War Games figures and watching YouTube, but I've exhausted all the paint-along videos and so on that I can find for the time being, so thought I'd do a repeat kind of version of what I did the other day. Just point the camera out of the window rather than show you my worktop, because I'm always embarrassed about the state of my painted minis until they're finished, and just chat a little bit. Apologies, it's not particularly good day for filming. It's a bit sort of hazy out there, but I've got the camera pointed out across the rooftops of Plymouth, out to sea. You might be able to make out in the distance there the Eddystone Lighthouse on the horizon, but the intention today is just to let you see any passing marine traffic. There is a little bit of activity out there at the moment. Just off to the left of the picture there's a Dutch ship, the Johan de Witt. In fact, what I might do is just move the camera briefly, see if I can pick it up. Yeah, no, I think it's actually behind that tall building there, but you might get a glimpse of that shortly. Yeah, and in about half an hour, 45 minutes time, there's a German frigate scheduled to come into Devonport, so that should cross the screen. What I'll do, I'm going to have my back to the camera while I'm painting, but on my laptop I've got a webcam on at the moment, so I'll keep glancing up at the screen, my screen, the laptop, and might be able to keep you up to date on what's happening in front of you there. Yeah, so wargaming wise, I'm going a little bit daft at the moment, and just sort of as I say, kind of going crazy really, and painting everything and anything that takes my fancy. And I tried to, in the past I've tried to sort of discipline myself and only have 3 or 4 projects on the go at any one time, but I've since turn of the year I've just been letting my imagination and my appetites run wild, and as I say, just picking up things and picking things up my lead mountain. But I have been buying new figures as well, just thinking, blow it, just while I've got the appetite to do something, or got an enthusiasm about a particular period of history, or a particular subject, just get the figures out and get them started. And it means that I've got an awful lot on my painting desk at the moment. I think I must have about probably about 10 different trays with figures on them, lots of figures on them, not just a few, all different enthusiasms, and there's plenty more to take their place once I've got those done. But it does mean that I paint slowly, and I just feel like I'm never going to complete anything. So the way I've got around that is to what I do is sort of slap some paint on one tray, and while that's drying move on to the next one, and so on and so on, and do them in order. But there's always going to be one particular tray that has got figures on it which I think are closer to completion. So with that one, what I will do is every day I will start with that tray, so I know that I'll at least get one coat of paint on those figures once a day, and then I'll go back to wherever I was in the rotation and carry on with that. So hopefully that means that I will kind of expedite one of those projects, and it means I will have a sort of fairly regular bunch of figures to show you. But it may, the way I'm doing things at the moment, it may be sometime before I can give you a kind of painting update on what I've got done. Just have another quick look there. Yeah, still nothing. Nothing on your screen. That Dutch ship looks as though it's heading out to sea, so it's probably not going to reappear. Plymouth is sort of Devonport is the sort of base for sort of training, NATO training exercises. So you do get a lot of naval kind of activity. Lots of different NATO members, send ships here to take part in exercises. Just off round the corner from that, off to the west of in the English Channel there. Yeah, at the moment, at this very moment, as I'm speaking to you, I'm painting up some more government infantry for the Jacobite rebellion. That could change, in the next sort of not while I've got the camera running, but as I say, I just put one coat of paint on each sort of figures, and then I go on to the next project. So it certainly won't, it won't be there all day on my desk. I'll move on to something else later today. The flags of war figures. I'm almost reluctant to even let you know that I'm doing that, because, as I say, the speed, my progress is so slow. It could be like 2 months before I finish them, and I've got them to show you, and I'm just embarrassed by my slow progress. But at the same time, I'm really enjoying the war games hobby at the moment, and painting, and I think it's actually more liberating just to indulge all your fancies, and not to try and discipline yourself and stick to one project at a time. I think I'm getting a lot of fun out of doing lots and lots of things, and every book I read, every DVD I watch, every TV program I watch seems to kind of inspire either a new enthusiasm or reawaken an old enthusiasm for something. And then, as I say, I just get things out of my lead mountain and start applying paint to them, or make some purchases. I made some purchases today. I won't tell you what. A new project, as a result of a really interesting book I'm reading at the moment. Just thought, that would make a really good subject for a little force to paint up and have. Could use it with a variety of different rules. So I just went for it, but I'm finding I'm sort of falling back on wargaming a lot recently, because a lot of my other pastimes I'm a bit stymied with at the moment. Finding I have and last year definitely had a lot of prostate problems. Remind me to talk about that a lot more later on in the video, because because that's been in the news recently with Charles and his royal prostate, and it's unusual for the royal family to announce much in the way of health matters, but he chose to make a little bit more public his treatment for his own prostate problems. I'll talk about that a bit later anyway. But yeah, a lot. So last year I spent a total of 4 months with various catheters in my bladder to allow me to be able to pee. I don't think you'll mind me talking about this in a Paintalong, because it is something that any one of you is born with a penis, so that's all the men out there and all the transgender women. Once you get beyond the age of about 50, you are almost certain to have some kind of prostate symptoms. So it is relevant to you. Most war gamers are male, so something that you will have to contemplate at some stage in your life. But yeah, anyway, a lot of my other activities definitely were curtailed a bit last year. It's very uncomfortable to do much in the way of anything energetic with catheters going through your penis, up your urethra into your bladder, and bags and so on attached to your legs to collect the urine in. It does make it very difficult to walk on the moor or anything like that. It's actually a lot more uncomfortable than that as well, because you get a lot of abrading of the surfaces, or the internal surfaces of your urethra, so you end up with it chafing a lot and blood appearing in your urine, which is always distressing to see. So I had a total of nearly 4 months, over 4 months, 17 weeks, so that's about 4 months, 17 weeks in total last year, attached to drainage bags and so on. And then I was hoping, this year to resume a lot more of my outdoor activities. So it's not just walking on the moor, but even just, going out around town, or going out to film ships, or to fly my drone. It was all a little bit difficult. And this year I was sort of kind of, looking forward to restoration of all those outdoor activities, but there's been a whole combination of circumstances that are preventing me at the moment. I mean, the most significant one is that I've really developed a lot of foot pain, and I know the reason for it. I've been to my GP over it, and the physio in my GP surgery, recognised what the problem was. It's basically my calf muscles are very stiff and tight on one side in particular, on my right leg, and as I'm walking and my leg tires, it causes me to externally rotate my foot, And the result of that over the course of years has been that the muscles underneath my foot that act as a sort of a pad over my metatarsals have just diminished to the point that when I do start to kind of rotate my leg, it feels, well, it actually is. The effect is that I'm just walking on the sort of bones of my foot. So it gives you a feeling like you're walking over a really hard, pebbly beach. And so it means at the moment I'm only able to walk for about a couple of hours before it really begins to hurt. Yesterday I went out. What I've done is started going out for a walk that takes me about 3 hours and just monitor each week how far I can get before my foot starts hurting. And the exercises that the physio gave me are definitely helping. I seem to be able to get a little bit further each week, apart from yesterday where it was just so bad. And I really was beginning to wonder how I was going to be able to get home. It was really hard to put my right foot down on the ground. And today it's really sore and tender. So I haven't done much today other than go out and get some shopping. But it's very frustrating because I'm really eager to resume more kind of energetic exercise and walking and so on. But it's beginning to feel like it's just old age setting in really, and having to kind of limit what I can do still further. But it's a bit like I feel like kind of like one of the polar bears up in the melting ice packs, and the ice floes are just getting fewer and further between one another, to the point where the polar bears are having to swim further and further to get from one ice pack to another. It's like that with so many of my hobbies now. I used to enjoy doing a lot of running, but gave that up in the end about 8 years ago now, because I developed sort of painful joint sort of syndrome called polymyalgia, which was treated with steroids, but it really began to make me think, I'm getting beyond the age where I should be thinking about not running all these distances, because that did seem to exacerbate the problem. So I gave up running. Now, I'm being pushed towards giving up even walking, or limiting what I can do in the way of walking. It makes it hard to even take the drone out, and the drone, I've only had the drone since about April last year, but I've always felt very restricted in where I can take it and where I can fly it. The regulations are ridiculously strict, and it's particularly bad right in the area where I live in Devon, because so much countryside and coastal paths are owned by the National Trust, which has a blanket exclusion prohibition of drone flying over their properties, which is absurd, absolutely ridiculous. The Civil Aviation Authority restrictions are quite sufficient to prevent all the kind of nuisance flying that the National Trust object to anyway. But they've gone over the top really. So a lot of people, you see a lot of drone footage on YouTube that's along the coast and so on, which is on National Trust land, and probably a few of those people don't realise that they haven't got permission to fly there, but others just ignore it because it is I can appreciate flying over stately homes and things like that, or places where there are lots of visitors. I can appreciate that would be a nuisance to those visitors and disturbing their own recreation. But flying over a completely deserted cliff top, something like that, even if you're not going to disturb wildlife in places like that. So yeah, but also in Dartmoor is the same. The Dartmoor National Park is exactly the same. They don't allow any flying on over the park, and the park covers a whole kind of multitude of landscapes. It's not just the moor as you know it, but it's downland and footpaths. Even a disused airport, which is an ideal place to fly a drone. Falls under the ownership of it's within the boundaries of Dartmoor National Park, so it's all prohibited. So it's really annoying. So that that makes you feel very restricted as well. So then there's been the weather. The weather's been awful anyway, and other things like my companion that I go walking on the moor with has had a bad chest infection since Christmas, so he's not really felt able to go out. So even just a walk on the moor without thinking about flying drones up there, which is not allowed anyway. Even that has not been really on the cards. So it's all been a little bit frustrating. Yeah, but I was watching today. I spoke on my last Paintalong. I spoke a little bit about the type of YouTube channels that I like watching, and how I much prefer the less sort of mainstream kind of channels, even on wargaming themes. But there's one channel I watch which I've recommended to people in the past. It's called Grey Army Painting. He's got quite a lot of subscribers now. He's based in Sweden, and he has a lot of different he deals with a lot of different subjects on his channel, not just wargaming, but his principal interest with wargaming is fantasy wargaming, although of late he's been putting up some really good battle reports for Star Wars. So neither of his main wargaming interests coincide with mine, but I watch him nevertheless because he is such an interesting channel. He's got a lot of he's I think he's clearly academic in some way. I I'm not sure what, but he talks a lot about philosophy. He even had a sort of spin-off channel for a while. Unfortunately, it seems to have stopped broadcasting, but and it was mainly during COVID, so maybe that's why. Maybe it was just an opportunity for them to continue with their academic debates and discussions whilst COVID was going on. But yeah, he had a sort of channel, and he shared the videos on his own wargaming channel of these philosophical discussions between, I think it was 3 or 4 different academics. It's really interesting. But today, he might have put it up yesterday, but I watched it today. He had a really good quality video. Really, camera work was amazing, and his editing and directing skills absolutely brilliant. Talking about how he'd reached a certain age. I think he said he was 42 now, and some people would refer to it as a midlife crisis, I suppose, but that term has got sort of negative kind of connotations to it now. And probably wouldn't use it in respect of what he's thinking about at the moment, but he just basically was saying how he wanted to kind of reawaken some of his old energies. He used to run a lot until about 4 or 5 years ago, and then just let it drop for a while when, you know, life kind of took over. Had another child, a young child, and the family moved out to the out of town to the countryside, other things as well, and he just let his running drop, and he wants to get back into running. So what he's decided to do, because the works of Tolkien was so inspirational to him as a young man, as an adolescent and a young man, he wants to kind of almost recreate Frodo's journey from Bag End to Mount Doom, is it? To destroy the ring. He wants to recreate that through running. So he's planning to run the entire distance that Frodo's journey represented, and to take the viewers along on his journey. But I can guarantee when he does it, he is going to do it immaculately. It won't just be, having a GoPro on his forehead or something like that, on his chest, running a lot of jerky footage. That his filming is sensational, and the countryside he runs through is absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, I mean, take a look at his channel if you're not familiar with it, Grey Army Gaming, and just watch this this video. It's about 8 minutes long, that he put up introducing his new plan. I think it's called something like The Run of the Ring or something like that. So that's going to be a really great series. But anyway, that struck me as kind of a similar, not similar really. I'm not doing anything like that, but similar kind of frustration that you have to kind of, as you age, you have to cope with all kinds of life changes, health changes, health matters, and deal with it as best you can. But it is just a fact of life. So yeah, to get back to, I just have a quick look at your screen to see if there's anything of interest. No, it's just lots of seagulls, but what time is it now? Yeah, in about, should be, if it's scheduled to come in at 12:45 and it's 12:35 now. So hopefully something should appear from the right of the screen while I'm talking to you. Yeah, to get back to the royal prostate, that really got my goat. Really did. I mean, I'm a staunch Republican, not Republican as in the American definition of the term, the Republican Party. Certainly not that. I am a staunch. I firmly believe that we shouldn't have a royal family. But yeah, so that really got my goat because, you know, he was. It's been kind of conjecture. The media was saying, you know, why has he done this? Why has he given out details of his health problems? That the previous Queen never used to do that. It was always kept very private matter, you know, and the sort of conjecture is that he wanted to make men more kind of aware of you know, prostate problems and to allow more of a public discussion about them. I'm perfectly in accord with that, which is why I'm talking to you about it at the moment. But also he wanted to kind of, I don't know, not garner sympathy, but to, you know, make him appear more an equal of, you know, his fellow men. And in fact he's done exactly the opposite, because the treatment he is receiving is totally different from what you or I can expect on the NHS in the UK. So he's kind of highlighted his privileged status, really, rather than you know, his common kind of situation to the rest of us. As I said earlier, you know, if you're a bloke, or if you were born with a penis, you will have a prostate, and once you get beyond the age of about 50, it will begin to, you know, you will begin to notice changes. If you're lucky, then, you know, you'll just be getting symptoms like not being able to fully empty your bladder. Ooh, what's that? I can see a ship on the horizon. Oh yeah, there is something just appearing on your screen to the left there, isn't there? What is that? Sorry for the pause in my conversation. I'm just trying to look on a marine traffic map to see if I can identify that ship. Oh yeah, I think it is the Brandenburg. Yeah. 1 minute ago. Yeah, so I think that is the German frigate. There's something else just poking its head in as well, isn't there? Anyway, gives you something to look at. Not a terribly good picture. Yeah, so where was I? Oh, sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. But anyway, oh yeah, yeah. So as you get to about the age of 50, you'll start to notice things like you can't empty your bladder completely. So you want to go, again shortly after you've just peed, or you'll start, waking up in the middle of the night with an urge to pee and have to get up. So you can expect that to happen, and it's because your prostate is growing. It's getting larger, and it wraps around the urethra, which is the passageway leading from your bladder to the outside world. So it begins to sort of squeeze on it and not allow your bladder to empty properly. Now, the enlargement of the prostate can be down to one of two things. It's either benign, which is what Charles has got, and hopefully which is what I've got. And that is the kind of inner part of the prostate growing. So the inner part of the prostate is soft. So what they have to do, sorry, I'm trying to concentrate on painting straight line as well at the same time as I'm talking to you. Yeah, what they have to do is stick their fingers up through your bottom to feel the prostate, and from that they can feel how large it is, for one thing, but also whether it is soft or hard. So if it's soft, it means it's more likely to be a benign growth. But benign is a bit of a misnomer, really, because it feels anything but benign when you get to the situation I was in, and it happened to me very suddenly and without very much warning at all, that I just stopped peeing completely, which is a really horrible thing to happen to you, because you feel like it's crazy, that you are bursting, quite literally bursting to pee, and nothing will come out, and the only thing to be done then is to take yourself to the casualty department of your local hospital, where they will catheterise you. As I found to my huge discomfort, if urine doesn't want to come out, then you can almost guarantee that a catheter will not want to go in, and I had to do that twice. I had 3 separate occasions where I needed catheterisation last year. On the first and the third occasions, I was in casualty, and the staff, on the first occasion, the nurse doing it had immense trouble and was on the point of giving up, but boy, did it hurt. Undescribable pain, You know, that I've experienced pain in my life. I've had lots of painful things happen to me. Broken bones. I've broken my hip, fractured my hip. Had a kidney stone. You know, in the old days, dental treatment used to be quite painful, but you know, comparing it to dental treatment nowadays is nothing but nothing compared to the pain I experienced that night in casualty. And then the third occasion, which was fairly recently, back in September, same thing happened to me again. And on that occasion, the casualty staff gave up in the end. A nurse tried, a doctor tried, and they had to summon a urologist to do it, and that was absolutely brutal, probably more painful than the first occasion. But having got it in, the whole experience of it being in place was a lot more comfortable than on the previous occasion. But yeah, but that and the middle occasion, it just happened to me when I was in clinic in outpatients once in the sort of early summer, and on that occasion they just gave me a catheter, a sort of single-use catheter that I could put in myself, and showed me how to do that, and that was bad. That was bad, and I certainly didn't relish the prospect of having to do that again. But let me take you back and to what I was saying about how Charles's treatment is totally different from, you know, what you would experience unless you pay to go private. That urologist that came down and catheterised me in September was the first urologist that I saw, and in fact the only urologist that I have seen in this whole it's been 13 months now. You know, you just can't. I was told I would see a urologist urgently back in May, and didn't, you know, and ended up back in casualty again. But also I was told back at the end of November I would be seeing a urologist soon, and we're now back at the end of January now as I speak to you. So access to a urologist is takes a ridiculously long time, and that's just to get a consultation, you know, to see a consultant to discuss your problems. So when they actually talk about waiting list times and so on, you know, they're skewing the statistics basically to make it look as though they're giving the public a better service than they actually are, because it's only from that consultation that they will time your wait for whatever treatment you need. So if you do need to have a procedure done, then the clock will only start ticking from that consultation. So although I am probably going to need a procedure, and I first presented myself to the hospital over a year ago, I'm still not on a waiting list for that procedure. So effectively I've been waiting a year, and that's hidden by NHS statistics. But far worse than that is that the treatment, the procedure that Charles probably had by now, I don't know, I think he was due to have it the beginning of the week, isn't available on the NHS in the region that I live in. So he is having a far less invasive and traumatic procedure to basically remove part of the prostate and enlarge the urethra to allow urine to pass. He is having something done which I am not going to be able to have done unless I pay £10,000 to have it done privately. So as I say, Charles is in a very privileged position. And has received, far more rapid attention and more comfortable attention. But let me go back right to the start then. So I was saying, that he and I both have benign symptoms, a benign condition. But of course, you can have the malign condition. In other words, you have cancer of the prostate, which also, causes it's abnormal growth, abnormal tissue that is growing and causing your prostate to enlarge. Now, that is usually the tissue on the outer part of your prostate, which is harder. So if during this rectal examination they palpate your prostate and it feels hard, then that's a good indicator of the fact that you have prostate cancer. The reason you're likely to present to them in the first place is that you have urinary symptoms, but as I say, nearly everybody over the age of 50 who's born with a prostate will have symptoms. So, there is no proper screening procedure to go through to check men for prostate cancer. If you turn up at your GP or something like that saying, "Oh, I'm a bit worried because my flow of urine isn't what it used to be," or so on, you may or you may not have a blood test. They might do a rectal examination. They probably will. I don't know. I didn't go that route. But the main thing is they will take a sample of your blood and they would do a test known as a PSA test. Can't remember what it stands for. Prostatic serum, something or other. And if that is high, then it's an indicator of an enlarged prostate. not necessarily that the enlargement is due to cancer. So what they would then do is a second blood test a week or two later, and if it's still high, then you might get referred for an MRI scan. But the big problem, which is why it's not a very satisfactory test, screening process, is that you can have a high PSA for all kinds of reasons, even doing something energetic like gardening, or anything that involves exercise will raise your PSA, which is why they do two tests, one after the other, to see if that raised level is still there 2 weeks later. So it's not something to worry about if you do have a high PSA, really. So the GP isn't necessarily going to send you for an MRI scan. And when they do, it's a lengthy procedure. It takes about 45 minutes to do an MRI scan of your prostate, maybe even an hour. And that may show up areas of your prostate that could potentially be cancerous. If that happens, then they have to take a biopsy of those areas, which involves passing a needle up through your perineum, which is the sort of fleshy area between your anus and the back of your testicles. So you have a needle passed up through that. They will give you a little bit of local anaesthetic, but I haven't experienced it, but it's still uncomfortable, I'm told. And then take biopsies of those areas, which they then can test for cancerous material. So it's a long, convoluted process to kind of diagnose prostate cancer, which is why people often don't present until not until it's too late, because it's very unlikely that you're going to die of prostate cancer, but because it is slow to kind of spread around your body. It metastasizes mainly to your spine to begin with, to your lumbar spine and pelvis, and then to the brain. So it will often be the case that the cancer's discovered when you present with back pain or hip pain or something like that. But anyway, you're not going to don't expect to get the attention that Charles has got. But at the same time, do things to safeguard your health. Like, if you are worried, do go to your doctor. But don't expect a rapid resolution of your problem. In my case, they put me on medication belatedly. They should have done it when I first went to casualty, but that got neglected for some reason. But the first thing they put me on was something called tamsulosin, which relaxes the sphincter muscle and it should make it a little bit easier for you to pee. And when that failed to work, I ended up in casualty again. They then put me on something called finasteride, which reduces the size of your prostate by suppressing hormones. So the tamsulosin, one of the side effects was it just makes you feel a little bit giddy, which, you know, I feel giddy quite a lot anyway, so I must have high blood pressure or something. The finasteride has, you know, more kind of significant side effects in terms of things like erectile dysfunction and fertility, and kind of loss of libido. You could end up developing female breasts. So it's a much bigger step. But believe you me, you would much rather those things happen to you than, you know, you'd having to endure the pain and discomfort of being catheterized, you know, again. So I didn't hesitate about starting taking those tablets. And then the prostate being a very vascular organ, reducing it in size does make it a lot more amenable to surgery of one kind or another, you know, because you bleed a lot less. But it takes about 6 months for the prostate to come down. So in my case, at the minute, I'm kind of in limbo at the moment, desperately trying not to get the same problem again. And the reason, these are other tips that people really ought to know is, but you just don't hear people discussing it, talking about it, which is why, you know, I do sort of welcome, in that respect, Charles's announcement, you know, and the way it might provoke some discussion is things that I only found out afterwards, you know, and I found out more or less by I found out for myself, but then I've heard it confirmed on media since. I used to really enjoy drinking coffee, and in fact the first occasion when I did go into urinary retention, I had been drinking a lot of coffee that day. Give up coffee because it irritates the bladder and irritates the prostate. So that is the first thing I had, the first pleasure that I had to forego was coffee drinking. I'll still drink it if I'm out around town or something like that, but I used to drink pints of it, literally pints, at home. So I haven't done that in over a year now. The second thing, which I've now done, is given up alcohol. And that is because alcohol numbs the bladder. So you fill up, but you're not aware that you are filling up, and the prostate is not allowing you to pee the entire contents of your bladder anyway. And what happens is it gets to, once the bladder goes over a certain size, you end up with it stretching like a balloon, and then that is why the muscles of the sphincter, which is part of the kind of wall of the bladder, are unable to relax. So, you know, the urethra won't open to allow the urine out. So drinking alcohol, especially if you drink it and then go to bed and you're not woken up with the need to pee because the nervous system has been desensitized by the alcohol, then you can wake up in the morning, as I did on the second occasion, and find you're not peeing even though you want to. So unfortunately you have to give up alcohol. And I used to drink quite a lot of whiskey in the nights, in the evenings. It was one of my principal kind of comforts in life, was sipping whiskey in front of the television or whatever in the evening. I had to stop that as well. I'm hoping that it won't be forever, but I thought I'd try and get something positive out of it. And alcohol is not, especially things like whiskey, is not cheap nowadays. So I'm using the money that I'm not spending on whiskey to try and reduce my credit card debt. So some good will come of it, even though I have found it very difficult to give up alcohol completely. Don't think that you can get away with drinking something less powerful like beer or something like that, because that will have the effect of filling your bladder up quickly. So it gets to a point where your bladder is filled, and it's stretching the wall before you're kind of monitoring it. So you go into urinary retention just from drinking the volumes, the pints. And if you don't think that's likely to happen, I'll give you an example of the middle time. So the second time I went into urinary retention, it was, as I say, it was while I was attending an outpatient's appointment, and all I was doing was drinking water to fill my bladder, so that they could then monitor how much I was peeing and how much was left in my bladder after I'd peed. But I drank the water, I just thought, get it down and get this over with, because it was taking hours. And I drank the water too quickly, and before I knew it, my bladder was really full, and then I couldn't pee anything out. So they had to intervene and give me these temporary single-use catheters, show me how to put one of those in. And it's not easy doing it yourself. It's almost worse than someone else doing it for you, because you don't, you're very reluctant to keep shoving. And the third time that I went into urinary retention, I had to go to casualty. I had tried to put one of these catheters up, and I must have pushed in a good 1.5 foot of catheter without getting any urine back. So they said afterwards it was probably kinking you know, in my urethra. So you just imagine, you know, the pain of that. But all these things are things that I'm sure Charles hasn't had to endure, because he would have had people on hand to sedate him, to make him comfortable. You know, if you're on the NHS, they're not interested in giving you sedation of any sort, because you know, that involves keeping you in hospital longer, monitoring, you know, that they haven't over sedated you and suppressed your respiration and that kind of thing. You know, so they'll get away. They'll do it without, in order to you know, save time, save money. So all you get is a bit of local anaesthetic, and that's it. And the local anaesthetic is useless. doesn't reach the problem at all. Yeah, maybe just on that final subject, you know, if in Plymouth, so I don't know whether this is true of all the NHS, but not only is that more sophisticated procedure that Charles had done available, but if you have to have a cystoscopy, which is a camera passed up your urethra, I had one years ago in Plymouth, you know, because I had a kidney stone, and I was asleep for it. But more recently, a friend of mine who has since been diagnosed with prostate cancer had it done, and he didn't have any anaesthetic, any general anaesthetic or sedation at all, and he said it was really, really painful. But if you go to the local private hospital, if you look it up there, then they sedate you. So it's another example about how the NHS, you know, treats you differently. I could go on, because I used to work in the NHS. I've got a lot of feelings about private treatment as opposed to the NHS, and I could spend an hour ranting on about that to you as well, but I think I've gone on long enough now. Must be getting on for an hour nearly of chat, and painful to listen to probably, but you know, it is something that I think you know, warrants thinking about, you know. So hope you found it. Hope it's given you food for thought. Main things are, you know, hope that something like that never happens to you, but just be aware that something almost certainly is going to happen to you as you age, and to get on top of it sooner rather than later. But just be prepared, you know, just appreciate that if you are an NHS patient and can't afford private treatment, you are not going to get the treatment that Charles did. Okay, so another look at the screen, but I don't think, yeah, nothing to look at there. So hope you've found that of interest and managed to get some figures painted while listening. See you on the next video.